This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
Coming in hot. That's what we do. Is it Friday? Man, it doesn't feel like it, but it is. As the Lightning getting set on the road again, taking on some opponents. We're going to get into that. What does it mean? Dave Mishkin is with me, of course. And if you guys want to react to anything we had to say, you can at Bolts Radio. Didn't get to every question yesterday, so we may keep it all open-ended for today's show, partner. But we are taping the show, so our audience can know that going in. But, you know, once again, it was interesting. You wake up and you look at the standings, and it just feels like every day there is a team moving up. I mean, you would think the Lightning would be in first place after winning 8 in a row. And look, they've got some games in hand, which is going to help. But Montreal and Detroit have been playing some pretty good hockey. They're 1-2 in that Atlantic Division. Montreal's played 44 games, partner. Detroit 45. Both have won a couple of games in a row, which has helped. But boy, it is a logjam of a Eastern Conference. And really, every day you wake up, it kind of changes.
Yeah, it feels like we're at a point, at least in the schedule, where there's a lot of East versus West. And so, like, Detroit just beat, Vancouver? Yeah. So, at some point, we're going to start seeing a lot more, like, East on East and West on West and Atlantic on Atlantic, right? I don't know if the schedule is exactly geared that way so that, you know, the final few weeks are all divisional opponents.
Right.
But I mean, I know the Lightning go out to Western Canada in March. So, I mean, clearly that's not the case. But if we're going to start to see separation, it's going to be because Atlantic teams are playing Atlantic teams and the games are ending in regulation. So you're right. Like Detroit and Montreal are winning. Toronto's gotten hot. Toronto was near the bottom. Remember, you were like, Toronto's in last place. Toronto has won. I don't know if they're on a winning streak or they're just on a good stretch, and maybe both. They had a come from behind win in Philadelphia last night, which the Lightning are heading to Philadelphia today. Yeah. But on the other side of the coin, like Ottawa started to leak oil, and the Panthers. So, you know, the Panthers lost the Winter Classic. They came back in their next game and had a good game against Colorado. Now they lost the first 2 on the road in a stretch when they played 9 of 10 on the road. Now those losses came at Toronto and at Montreal. So if you're a Lightning fan, you're like, we probably like the fact that the Panthers lost, but in a divisional game, you want to see that game end in regulation. And both of the Panther losses have come in regulation. So, I mean, it seems improbable that all of these teams would keep the pace that they're at. All of them, right? The Lightning just have to worry about themselves, though. And, you know, they are on a well over a 100-point pace with still just under half a season to go. I think I'm comfortable saying, Greg, if they get to 100 points, they are getting in the playoffs. And as we often say, does it matter where they finish? I'm not sure it does. For the Lightning, I'm not sure it matters where they finish. And their opponent could be anyone. Because, I mean, it's so bunched up. Try and predict, you know, the 8 teams that are going to get into the playoffs in the order. Good luck, right? So, you're right, though. I mean, it continues to be tight. And high marks are these teams that I think have taken some people by surprise, notably the 2 teams at the top of the Atlantic, Detroit and Montreal. But I think Buffalo has surprised some people. I haven't seen the Sabres yet. They will. I shouldn't say soon. I think the 4 games against Buffalo are all after the Olympic break. Boston is not in a playoff spot right now, but I think the Bruins have maybe exceeded some expectations. They've kind of done well, and then they dipped, and then they kind of rebound. Like, they haven't dipped to the point that they've fallen, you know, out of the race. So, and what did I say yesterday about I wouldn't want to be Colorado's next opponent after they lost 2 in a row in regulation? Ottawa just got taken to the woodshed. Was it 8-2 last night?
Yeah.
Colorado put a snowman up. So the teams that start leaking oil have to figure it out, right? Or else they could fall so far behind with too many teams to overtake. It becomes very, very difficult.
You know, it's interesting. I wonder, hard for us to gauge, but I'm curious if we think this may be the new norm moving forward. When we talk about all the parity and the talent that is coming in. Is this going to be just something, everybody would say, hey, American Thanksgiving is when you're going to have a pretty good idea of who you are as a team,
right,
and maybe where you are in the standings. Do we have to punt that a little further out now, understanding that the team collectively is more talented than it's ever been? And while the cap is going to go up, I think that'll be interesting to see if there is some separation with teams that are willing to spend and maybe teams not. But I'm just curious, is this something we have to keep our eye on that, look, it may be December, early January, where you still don't know who the best or the top 8 teams are because there's so much parity.
Well, this year that is the case. I'm not comfortable saying that is going to be the case, like moving forward indefinitely. Right. There are going to be some teams that become bottom dwellers. I mean, you would figure the teams that have been bottom dwellers, and then now that they're starting to improve, are not going to just revert to being bottom dwellers again.
Yeah.
I think the expectation was maybe a couple of years ago that teams like Pittsburgh and Washington would become bottom dwellers because their top players were aging. But credit to both those organizations. I mean, the Penguins have not done quite as well as Washington. Like Washington had a great year last year, and the Caps have made the playoffs 2 years in a row. The Penguins are hitting a little bit of a dry spell in terms of making the playoffs, but they are competitive this year. So it's not like it's been a one-way street straight to the bottom of the standings. That's a credit to them, and Washington has done it with, I think, they managed to retool their roster through young players, through players that they've acquired that have evolved. They've done a good job. I mean, Logan Thompson very well might be the starter for Team Canada at the Olympics.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Any team could have had him. Any team.
Yeah. So
the Caps, obviously, that was a good destination for him. There's no question. That's all I'm saying. Like, if we had this conversation, let's say 3 years ago, we've been like, Penguins are getting old. Ovechkin's getting old. What's the future for Pittsburgh and Washington, who have been two of the top teams in the East for a decade and a half? Well, neither one of them is in that position at all. You can probably speak more to the Penguins than I can, but I mean, it seems like whether it's their older guys are having a renaissance or they fix some things around the edges. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't really get the sense the Penguins have as many young bucks as
they're starting to.
The Caps do. I mean, they have the Kindle kid and McGroarty, but
yeah, they're starting to. But I think look, Crosby's on pace for his second best goal total in his career. Malkin came back last night, scored a goal. I mean, I think he's performing better than what you would anticipate for a 39 or 40-year-old. And I think there's that new coach bump.
Yeah.
There's part of that. And I think they're playing a different way. Remember Mike Sullivan? It was pinch, pinch, pinch. I don't care where you are in the offensive zone. Pinch. And a lot of times, how many times would we see it when the Lightning would play? Pittsburgh notorious for giving up odd-man rushes. And it didn't matter. They weren't smart a lot of times. Awareness of where the game was, how much time left. I mean, there could be 30 seconds in a third period. You're trying to close out a lead, and you're pinching in the offensive zone when make the smarter play. So I think there's some of that. But I think, the young players, this isn't just for Pittsburgh, I think collectively overall has been an interesting story. And just look at the Lightning, a little bit of an infusion of some young talent this year. And for teams maybe that because they've been... Well, it's
that's
new
really
blood.
what it new blood, yeah.
And I don't know, and I think that's what's so interesting about the Lightning, to bring it back here, is that, let's be fair, not that they plateaued the last couple of years, but certainly they weren't at the level, particularly in the playoffs, that they had been previously when they were going to Stanley Cup Finals and winning a couple of those. But I think that's the trade-off if you're a fan, and even Julian would probably admit it, down the road, we'll handle down the road. But as long as our window is open, we're going to take our swings now. And the effects of that potentially could be your minor league system dries up a bit. I think what's been very interesting for Tampa Bay, and maybe they are the outlier, is that they develop really well. There are a lot of teams who draft well, but how many times do we see a player have to move to a couple of different teams before
Right.
they find their footing? I mean, the Lightning, look what they've done with some of these players who aren't first-round picks, who have come in and have been able to contribute. And then the other thing they've done a really good job of finding value with players who weren't drafted.
Yeah. That's what we talked about yesterday, which is what Julian talked about.
Yes.
Relating to like why players with options who are at the beginning of their careers like the idea of coming to the Lightning. The development and the opportunity
I think you're right.
to grow.
And but the Lightning, I think, for me, are the unicorn because they've done it for over a decade, not only drafting well, but developing.
Yeah.
I think that's often the missing part for a lot of teams. It's in leagues, baseball, basketball, football. I mean, how many times do you see in football a quarterback who was a first-round pick that may have to go to another team, couple of teams, before they figure it out? Baseball, same thing. Guy toils in the minor leagues, can't figure it out with your club, and goes to another team. Maybe it's a change of scenery. Maybe it's an adjustment they made. Whatever that is, the Lightning, and we talked about it with Jamie Pusher. You mentioned him yesterday, who obviously is overseeing a lot of this. But you have to have the foot soldiers in place to execute.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're just a well-oiled machine. And Destou's probably the best example this year. I mean, he comes in, they scout him. They're like, this guy can play. Comes up, plays well. It doesn't come out of the lineup.
Well, Julian did say that of all the people who – so that was actually the first question out of the box. Brian Engblom asked Julian, who is responsible for finding Charles-Edouard Destou? And Julian laughed. He said, Charles-Edouard Destou has many parents, meaning that like a lot of different people within the Lightning organization had noticed him.
Yeah.
And it
That's
kind of there was a dissection of opinion, right? Where a lot of people agreed, like, let's give this guy a shot. He's like, not one of those people would have believed that he would have been able to do what he's done this year.
That's fair.
So, they were interested enough to bring him to the organization. It's not like we can really say he developed within the Lightning's organization because he arrived and basically within short order was up in the NHL. But the Lightning found this guy.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when you look around, let's say the Eastern Conference. So we probably have 3 categories of teams. And the Lightning probably were incorrectly put into one of these categories, and I would have them in a different category. So one category is the teams that have not been good, that have gotten high draft picks and been able to build up their team through poor performance, basically, and you get good players through the draft, and then those players get some reps, and the team starts to get better. Think about Buffalo. Think about Montreal. Think about Ottawa, right? To an extent, Detroit has kind of, their roster is more like a mix because they brought in the last few years some veteran guys. And by the way, congratulations to Patrick Kane, who just scored his 500th goal last night for Detroit. Yeah. But the teams that have not been as good, that have been able to benefit from high draft picks to get better. All right, so they are like trending up. Then you have teams that have been good but are still good. In other words, they're not in the Pittsburgh boat, which is what we thought, where it's like Crosby's in his late 30s, Letang's in his late 30s, Malkin's in his late 30s. Like they lean on these guys. Erik Karlsson is in his mid to late 30s. What's the future here? It seems like it's a one-way, drop, and that's going to be it. And then you have the so those are the 3 categories, right? Teams that are trending up. Teams that are kind of still in the mix because their main players haven't reached the point where they're going to start to decline.
Yeah.
And then teams that are relying on their top players who are getting older or those players have left. So what's interesting about this year is the 3rd category. I think people felt the Lightning were in that 3rd category. They are not in that 3rd category.
No.
They're not. That's just not paying close enough attention to actually the age of the Lightning main guys. It just feels like they are old because they've been around for so long. But they're not. Most of the Lightning key guys are in their late 20s, early 30s. Hedman and McDonough are the exceptions. But in their absence, the Lightning have had other guys step up and step in. Okay. Here are the teams that I think are in the third category. Boston Bruins. Look at what they've done this year. New head coach. You talked about that with Pittsburgh, and I put Pittsburgh in that category too. But, I mean, look at what they've lost in the last few years. It wasn't that long ago. They won 65 games. No more Bergeron. No more Krejci. I mean, those are two huge absences, right? No more Marchand.
Sure.
I mean, the makeup of their team has changed significantly. Really, the main guy that they still have is Pasternak, and he's in his prime. But how have they done it? Well, I think their coach deserves a lot of credit, and he has come in and brought some juice. And Morgan Geekie.
He has been fantastic.
They found this guy.
Yeah.
Shouldn't say they found him. Nobody would have expected that Morgan Geekie would go from a fourth-line guy in Seattle a couple of years ago, and even before that, a guy who couldn't even stick with Carolina in the lineup.
That's what we just talked about with the drafting and developing, and maybe he comes to a new team. They work with him.
He wasn't drafted by the Bruins. He wasn't even developed by the Bruins.
But that's what I mean.
Took
like, you have to bounce
on this guy and look at where he is now.
For sure.
I mean, it's not just him, but I think he was a surprise. Like anybody, and last year he had a good year,
doubt.
So he wasn't as much of a surprise this year. But I think last year he was a surprise, and he has exceeded where he was last year this year. So that's how the Bruins are doing it. How are the Penguins doing it? Well, their older statesmen are having terrific seasons, and Dan Muse has brought in some juice. But, as we often say, Father Time is undefeated. So some of these teams that we kind of thought maybe are in the downward trend, they aren't this year, but it's inevitable. Unless you can turn back the clock, it's going to be hard to rely on your elder statesmen to keep carrying the load that way. And the juice of a new coach doesn't last forever, right? Eventually that new coach just becomes the coach.
Yeah. It's fair.
And teams can revert to the mean. But that's why you were like, are we going to see this moving forward? I'm not sure if we are going to see this moving forward, because there was a reason why people were looking at the Bruins, let's say, and the Penguins. I just have those two teams that I'm mentioning. But the Bruins have lost a lot of their key guys, and the Penguins, their key guys are older. So what do we make of that? Unless you're going to conjure up all of these replacement players that can do as well as the ones that have departed, you're going to have a hard time maintaining the same level. But this year they're doing it, which is why the Eastern Conference is looking the way it's looking. I probably left out a team or two there, but you know what I'm saying? Like the Montreals and the Buffaloes and the Ottawas and the Detroits, they are trending up. Some trended a little bit more this year than others, but they're all in the mix. I think the Lightning and the Panthers, Carolina, Washington now, because Washington has some really good, they are teams that have been good and are still good. And then you have a couple of teams that I think people expected would drop off this year.
We've been waiting for Buffalo for a while, so that'll be an interesting test. The Geekie was interesting, and you're right about being drafted. It was more of bouncing from a couple of different teams. Is there something that clicked once? Was Boston able to unleash
he
the
got
real
opportunity,
Geekie? And
right?
that could be
playing
it.
in the top six, playing in the power play. He's got a great shot. I mean, that's one thing the Geekie brothers share, because Connor is a great shot too. Morgan's got a great shot. So does Pasternak.
Sure.
But you can have two good shooters on the team. Elias Lindholm is a facilitator. He is. I mean, I don't think that he's having statistically the kind of year. He is a good player. I mean, they have good players, but I mean, you're pulling off so many of their key players from their 65-win season not that long ago. That's why I think a lot of people who cover the league were like, yeah, the Bruins probably going to struggle to make the playoffs this year. Marco Sturm's like, not so fast, right? We're going to compete, and we're going to do everything we can to maximize what we've got on the roster. And credit to them. They are right there.
100%.
Outside the playoffs right now, I believe. But, I mean, they went out west. They did pretty well in Western Canada. They just came back home. They beat Calgary last night. Where are the Bruins? The Bruins are 11th in the conference, but they're only 2 points out of a wild card spot. Points percentage-wise, they're a little worse than that, but
it is jumbled. There's no doubt.
It is very tight. Yes.
There is no doubt about it. We do have some questions. We can get into Philadelphia if you want to in a little bit, partner.
Yeah, they're an
whatever
interesting team. They have 52 points in 42 games.
They really are.
They've had a very, very good year under
Is
Rick
this the
Tocchet.
Tocchet effect or what?
Well, another new coach, right?
I've always liked Rick Tocchet.
I think Zegras has helped them.
Yeah.
Objectively, like they did very, very well with that trade. But I mean, a lot of credit should go to Talk. Excuse me, which is why he got some of those votes in that poll we floated around yesterday.
We can break them down in a little bit more depth. Al says, guys, when 77 and 27 return, will the team be better? The present D group is quicker, younger, move the puck faster, and keep the game simple. Oh, wow, I know where you're going with this. It's hard to argue with success, assuming 22 is gone. Could 77, 27, or 81 be moved for a big right-hand shot like Morgan Geekie? Look at Al. I love the way Al thinks.
So they just Al, I'm just going to say this with love in my heart. Get a grip, Al. Get a grip. Okay.
Oh, no, don't do Al like that. Don't do Al like that.
They just re-signed McDonough. They're not going to trade Ryan McDonough. Are you suggesting they trade Ryan McDonough this year?
I love it.
What did we just say? Like the impact that McDonough and Hedman have had on the younger defensemen. So the Lightning will be better with those guys back, assuming they are healthy. You're not going to trade your captain, Al. So
no. Those
and the other guy you mentioned, Chernak, I believe has a. I mean, look, anything can happen, right?
Sure.
But I mean, I believe Chernak has a no trade clause.
Listen, Al, I like where your head is. I think you might have the wrong pieces involved in something like that. I agree with Mish. I don't think McDonough and Hedman, not only what they do on the ice but off the ice. I mean, didn't Julian talk about that? Those guys have been instrumental.
I love how he said, you think for Morgan, we just talked about why would the Boston Bruins trade Morgan Geekie?
And
the Lightning should just, why don't they trade Brandon Hagel? Because the other team looks how Brandon Hagel can fit into their system, and then they're just going to give you the players that they don't want, which is not really what
And would you...
You always do that like talk show guy.
Right. Well, yeah, hey...
you take all of the players
Greg,
that I don't want,
caller,
and I want the player that I want from your team.
Hey, Greg, this is Frank and Shady Side. You think we get Ovechkin if we traded, a Pascal Dupuis? And it was one of those things with that Yinzer... accent. The other thing too is, I mean, I've never been one to say you can't trade within the division, but when things are this tight and teams are competing for spots, I don't know if you trade in the division like that.
Yeah, I think what Al is looking at is that Morgan Geekie is a right-handed shooter, right? Which, yeah, he is. He would look pretty good at the left circle playing with Kucherov and those other guys.
Al, I love it.
I don't think Morgan Geekie is on the trade block.
I will say this for Al, we might not be accumulating the same parts to get to the same conclusion, but we understand there is going to be a logjam. So we have talked about that.
He is also making the case that the Lightning's D-core right now is better than it would be if you added those other guys, which Chernak's already back. But I mean, he was talking about McDonough and Hedman, and I don't agree with that. I'm sorry.
You can't forget the cups. You can't forget the high level when those guys were healthy. And I think that's the biggest part through all of this. I don't think Hedman's been healthy all year.
Correct.
And McDonough, look, he's had injury issues. Yeah. So could you make the conclusion for some, they've played a lot of hockey. You mentioned Father Time. Is it hitting these two guys right now? I don't think we're there yet. Just like I don't think we can be there right now with the analysis of this core group of Lightning defensemen who are currently playing. They're going to maintain this level of play from now until the Stanley Cup playoffs. Very similar to what Julian talked about with Darren Radish. I need to see more. This is a great start. But I think in fairness, Crozier, Carlisle, are just getting their feet wet. Destu, even to a lesser extent at the NHL level, it looks promising. It looks great. It's a big reason why the Lightning are playing and are in the standings where they are.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to use that analysis and that logic for Hedman and McDonough to say, well, look, the decor has looked better with those guys out of the lineup, that's been a small sample size. You can also flip that and say, look, it's been a small sample size too for Carlisle, Crozier, Destu, even Lilleberg when he was playing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
we didn't even mention him.
you have to give it a little bit more time. So far, so good, but I don't think any team would not bring back their Hall of Fame captain when he's ready to play and their best defensive defenseman when he's ready to play, because you give those guys the benefit of the doubt. So, big picture, Al, in my opinion, if the Lightning were to address some of the things that we have discussed on this show this year and yesterday's show as well, I do think you could see a piece coming from the back end because you have a plethora of players there. But I don't think you're going to sit a Hedman and a McDonough when they come back.
One thing Julian said relating to this question where he said, that's Coop's problem and then laughed about it because Coop has to set the lineup. Julian just has to set the roster. There's a difference. He said, if we are going to get to where we want to get, we're going to need everybody, which is
that's
a statement in the face of your point, which is like, we got all these assets. Let's use one of them to improve another area of the team, which, look, that could happen too. I think Julian is looking at all of these defensemen as assets that are going to help the team, and you may need them to help you because in a long playoff run, you're going to have injuries. It's inevitable.
I don't disagree with any of that.
Or matchups. Sure. Maybe you're like this player may be more better suited to help us beat this particular opponent. What I will say is this, Al. I do not think that the Lightning, when McDonough and Hedman are ready to return, are going to not put them in the lineup. Do I think it's possible, though, that Moser and Radish will remain a pair and maybe see significant minutes, even though you have McDonough and Hedman? I think that is certainly possible. I think that integrating the injured players back in may be a slower process and a slower burn, basically, because these other guys have performed so well. And just think about it, if McDonough is going to be part of your shutdown pair, however we're going to term that, whoever his partner is, whether it's Chernak or somebody else, right now, really the shutdown pair is Moser and Radish. They were out against the McKinnon line against Colorado. What a benefit that would be. If you're the road team, you have a harder time getting McDonough and partner, whoever that partner is, and it's been Chernak. But let's just say McDonough and whomever. If you have trouble getting, the other team is we want to get our top guys away from McDonough. Well, you can throw Moser and Radish out there, give you more coverage, right? Because they can do the job. They have chemistry together. I'm not saying that this is how it's going to play out. I'm just saying that it's not like a zero sum where it's one guy comes in and now you're compensating by, you are pulling somebody out of the lineup, but it may not be affecting the sum of your parts. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It may benefit the sum of your parts because you're getting two really, really good players back. And then Lilleberg as well. Lightning may go with 7D. They've done that too.
Well, that's the other thing that nobody, wants to acknowledge, or maybe we just haven't gotten there yet, is that does this impact John Cooper in the lineup a little bit more in terms of 12, 6, 11, and 7?
Maybe.
I don't know. Because the forward, you can make a case, the forward group is a strength as well.
Yeah.
It really is. And so I think maybe what you end up seeing is some mixing and matching when it comes to the lineup.
Gord, Gergensons, and Holmberg, as long as those three players are healthy, there's nothing happening to that line the rest of the season.
Do you think, and I'm spitballing, I have an
idea. So that
idea.
line, but let me just say, that line is secure, and then you have the top six. So any adjustment with the forwards would be with the remaining line, which right now is Bjorkstrand, Paul, and James. But
from
who knows
what
how
we've
it's going to
seen,
look in the second half.
would you say it's fair, partner, that at the forward spots, and I agree with you about the Gord line, I don't think anybody's changing those guys and what they do. Heck, John Cooper mentioned this, was it a couple of games ago, about this team started to really take off a bit when Gergensons came back into the lineup. Fair point. But is it fair to say, if we're looking this without the emotion on our sleeve, that while the forward group is very talented and it appears to be deep, that maybe James and Gonsalves aren't necessarily locked into the lineup every single night? It feels like those are the two guys who, if you're going to bounce guys in and out of the lineup, it seems like those are the two that end up coming out.
Gage Gonsalves is playing in a top 6 right now.
Well, but we've seen that before.
Yes, we have.
And then we've seen him be in the press box.
I think Al's question was, the Lightning are playing well. The Lightning's defense is playing well. The Lightning are defending well.
Yeah.
All three of these things are happening. So how much is it going to upset the apple cart when the injured guys come back? It will upset the apple cart a little bit, but the apple cart got upset when those guys went out too. Yeah. And you had to find replacements. So what was it that you asked the other day? Can you lose your roster spot due to injury?
Injury.
You can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But I think in the case of the guys that are currently injured on defense, and that's really the extent of it, because no forward player is injured right now.
Sure.
But it's McDonough, it's Hetman, and it's Lilleberg. Right? I'm not forgetting anyone. We've had so many injuries. I'm like, wait a minute, is there somebody else? So when those three guys come back and they are, Sabrin is hurt. Thank you, Steve. But to me, Sabrin is he has been a tweener this year.
Right.
So he's a guy that has come up and he has come down. So to me, he's in a little bit of a different category. Those three other guys are not in that category. So when they come back and are able to play, they are going to come into the lineup. I believe that.
Yeah.
And then John Cooper may have to do some mixing and matching. He may go 7D. Somebody may get sent down. We'll see. But I think Julian's point was, all of these players are adding value to our roster, and we may need them. We will need them if we can get deep in the playoffs. That's his belief. We've seen evidence of this. When the Lightning have gone deep, you can look at just about every year. They've had to rely on somebody that did not start the playoffs playing regularly. Almost across the board. The famous one that we talk about in the bubble was when McDonough got hurt in the first game of the second round, and Luke Schenn and Braden Coburn, who had been doing no actual game playing, just skating in the bubble. It's hard enough to be in the bubble. You're in the bubble, you're not even playing games. You're just working practices to keep yourself sharp in case may not come. I mean, we just said that in case usually does come. But if somebody gets hurt, it may be a forward, you may not get in. Both guys came in for game 2 of the Boston series, and they played exceptionally well to the point that Schenn became, a regular.
He did.
When McDonough came back, the Lightning really stuck with 7, so they went from 6D to 7D. They replaced McDonough with Schenn and Coburn. When McDonough came back, Coburn went out, but Schenn stayed in. And, they went with that until the Stanley Cup final. And then in the final, when they lost game 1, if I'm remembering right, they took Bogosian out and went to 12-6, but Schenn stayed in. Nobody had Luke Schenn playing as much as he did when the playoffs started. So now the Lightning were glad to have him in the lineup in that Islander series. Remember, you talk about that a lot with him and Bogosian and Maroon, standing at the red line and having conversations with some of the Islander tough guys.
Yeah.
That's a separate category. I'm just saying, look at any year. Somebody is going to get hurt. Yeah. You're going to need somebody to step in and step up. The 04 run, Jason Cullimore got hurt in game 3 of the first round. Nolan Pratt came in, and it was exceptional for the Lightning. Cully didn't get back until game 7 of the conference final. He missed basically 2 rounds,
Yeah. For sure.
That's
a
what
great point.
Julian is thinking about.
The interesting thing, I believe, when you start talking about the depth, it's interesting at the forward position. The guys who have been the reserves, you can make a case, are more tweeners at this point. Sabrin, Douglas, Finley to a lesser extent because he's still young, and I think he's still trying to carve out his niche at the NHL level. But at least as it stands right now, those are the three other forwards they have looked at coming into the lineup, whether it's injuries, whether it's performance. I don't think, excuse me, if you're heading into the playoffs and one of your regular forwards go down the way it's consistently or constructed right now, I don't think Sabrin, Douglas, and Finley would be an option in the playoffs. This is me just spitballing, which is why I think if they can get another forward, they would feel more comfortable if something were to happen to one of the regulars than they would. We're going to have Douglas or Sabrin in the lineup once the playoffs begin. I think you need a little bit more there, which is why I think Gonsalves and James are going to be given every opportunity here to really see, okay, we really like them and we're sticking with them, or we still really like them, but boy, if we can go get somebody who's a proven veteran, we may do that. So I think there are more legitimate options on the back end to have somebody fill in and play come crunch time for me than there are at the forward position if somebody goes down, because the alternative, I think, are guys who are either tweeners or just haven't done enough for the Lightning to feel like I'm comfortable with that. I mean, they may have to. So that's kind of how I would look at it, Al. But I think we all agree. Hedman, McDonough, they're coming back. When they do come back, they're playing. And that's how that rolls. UCF Bolts fan says, guys, I wish Point would one-time those quick passes into the bumper. There isn't enough time to dust it off. I think Point has had a little bit of that shooter mentality in the bumper last game.
They got 3 pucks to him on that first power play. And I think the fan is saying that on 2 of them, he did stop it and then try and shoot it, and they were like deflected. The one he one-time did and he missed, if I'm remembering right. I think Braden Point knows what to do in that spot.
I would agree. Listen, I think one of the things you take over the last handful of weeks is that if Braden Point is getting back to his level of all-star caliber, that does change things a lot for Tampa Bay, because Gensel's been rock solid. Kucherov continues to be an offensive force. I think Hagel, when he's in the lineup, of course, and Cirelli have been good. Hagel's been really good. But I think if you get Braden Point clicking like he did last year, 50-goal scorer, 40-goal scorer, if he gets back to that pace, which it looks like he's getting back to, that's a tremendous development for this Tampa Bay Lightning team, because who were the 2 guys we talked about at the beginning of the year and throughout the year that just felt a little bit off? Point and Bjorkstrand. I think Bjorkstrand is munching points. I don't know if he's back to where he wants to be. I think for him, he's a goal scorer. He needs to see the puck go in the net.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He needs to go on a heater. And I think he's doing better today than he was at the beginning of the year. But I'm not sure, and I think Julian probably would admit this, and I know they like his 5-on-5 play. I think that's a nice way to kind of protect your players if they're struggling a little bit. He was brought in to score goals.
Yeah.
And he was brought in to score goals on the power play. I mean, that's why he got, and that's okay to admit that. Just hasn't clicked as well as I think he would like. He gets going. Now the Lightning, it's almost like adding 2 new players at the trade deadline. And wow, what is that going to look like? So just kind of keep that in mind. Dustin says, I agree, guys. This is from a couple of days ago. The face-off solution has to come from the guys who are on the roster. Also, with the amount of times players are thrown out of the faceoffs with no explanation to the player, I almost wonder if sometimes they are guessing on when to draw. As far as a trade goes, you'd like to see the Lightning do something preferably at forward, but with the new or adjusted CBA not being able to double trade teams, i.e. 50% retain Team 1 and 25% Team 2 retain, like how we got Gord, is no longer an option, which handcuffs the Lightning majorly, even not being up against the cap to the dollar, which we found out they basically are now.
Julian, because they've had to use all of the extra money to allocate for injured players.
What do you think about that whole? I mean, the face-off, I kind of agree with.
I mean, look, I don't think that anything's going to happen before the deadline, and nothing may happen. They may not address where they are in face-offs and just ask the players that are taking the face-offs to do better. And maybe they will. We'll see. I mean, I guess the good news is that their face-off weakness has not really hurt them tangibly yet. They've been able to dodge the bullet of lost face-offs at key points in games, with the exception of that Montreal game where Montreal won a key draw at the end of the game and got the game tied. If the Lightning win that face-off, the game's over. I mean, the Lightning got the second point anyway, but Montreal got a point because they got the game to overtime.
What do you make of the face-offs in general with the officials and not,
we're not
somebody
down
out
there, so it's hard to know. Like, you're not supposed to cheat. You're not supposed to put your skate over the hash mark. You're not supposed to like false start. But
of course that happens.
Discretion. Yeah. So sometimes they throw them out, sometimes they don't. Yeah. When you see the centerman get annoyed, that's usually an indication they felt it was not just.
Yeah.
But often they just leave the circle. So I mean, they're not really complaining about it. And yeah, I mean, that's part of it. Getting thrown out means a less capable face-off person is coming in. But remember, after icings, which are sometimes some of the biggest face-offs, the centermen stay in. You're not kicked out.
Yeah, you're right.
So we'll just have to keep monitoring it. I mean, as well as they played against Colorado, they had a horrific night in the circle. When they lost the first 11 in a row.
That's hard to imagine.
And I mean, it was a very, very small portion of the game. Excuse me. But, the Gensel power play goal happened because Braden Point won 3 straight offensive zone faceoffs during that power play. They happened one right after the other. It was late in the period. But he'd win the draw. The Lightning would hold it in, take a shot. There was a save or went out of play. There'd be another faceoff. He won the draw again. So they had 4 faceoffs during that power play. They lost the first one, but I think they retrieved the puck. Or if it went down the ice, they brought it back in. The next 3 was late in the period, and they won all 3 to hold it in, which helped them conserve time until the last one, and then Point won it and kind of went from Radish to Kucherov to Gensel, and he shot it in. So that's an example where the Lightning did well in a little stretch of time on faceoffs, helped them get the goal. The rest of the night, though, was horrifically bad for them in the circle. Not every game has been that bad, but it's not like Colorado's any great shakes in the circle. They're not. I mean, McKinnon, as great as he is never been a top faceoff guy.
No.
He had a great night. He was winning them left and right. So when the Lightning take on a really, really good faceoff team, like Toronto, let's say, it's going to be a disadvantage they're going to have to figure out a way to overcome.
Do you remember their percentages when they were going to Stanley Cup Finals and winning it?
They were never one of the top teams, but they were
middle of the pack
than they are now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would say, like, how far off are they from the middle of the pack? When you start talking about, because maybe they're one of the teams that can really overcome that. Maybe that is just a deficiency. And look, what's the one stat? Pat Maroon brought it up on the pregame. It's something like the Lightning have won every game, maybe, where they've had the face-off percentage 40% or below.
Oh, did he mention that? Okay.
And I didn't
look, know that.
I don't think that's a stat you want to be proud of necessarily. And I actually think in the playoffs that may come back to hurt you more than you think. In the regular season, maybe you're able to get away with it a little bit more. But there is like this stat where the Lightning have done, let's put it this way, very well.
Mm-hmm.
When they
beat Boston in the third game of the year, and that I think was their worst face-off game. That was because we were talking about it afterward. I'd have to go back. I mean, they haven't lost a lot of games this year, so
Well, they haven't. So, like I said, is this
we'd have to go back and look.
Is this the outlier? Because you don't want to force a trade to bring a
not.
guy
It's
in.
not in the game plan to lose 11 straight faceoffs to start a game, though. I can guarantee you.
Alien Among Earthlings. How about this one? Appreciate this. Hey, guys, why are you guys so enamored with Gonsalves? He's replacement level, and that spot on the top line right now should be Dominic James. When Sabrin gets better, he should be a regular on the fourth line.
Well, we just go off what we're seeing, and when Gage was struggling at the start of the year, I think we said that.
Yeah.
Now he's playing better, and we're saying that. I don't know that we are, quote-unquote, enamored with him. We try and be fair and honest about our assessments.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've listened to the show, I mean, we have talked about when Gonsalves needed to add a little bit more juice to the lineup and be productive. When Gage Gonsalves has been productive offensively, he's stayed in the lineup. And when he has gone through dry spells, he has seen himself not in the lineup or sent down to the minors.
4 games in a row,
Yeah.
yes. Well, last year, yes.
Yeah, last year. But I mean, to me, that's kind of the history of Gage Gonsalves. It's pretty clear to me they view him as a top 6 skilled forward when things are clicking, maybe top 9 if you want to be generous from that perspective, partner. But if you're not going to produce in that space and you're a younger player, you're a little easier to take in and out of the lineup as opposed to an Oliver Bjorkstrand who is a NHL regular. You got to deal with his contract. You also have to understand he's an established player. You're probably not going to be sitting him multiple games, multiple weeks because you're not satisfied with his production. It's going to come from James and Gonsalves are guys that you can shuffle in and out of the lineup. What you're hoping for with Gonsalves and James is that they show consistency. And if they show consistency, that's how you become an NHL regular. Like right now, it's still up in the air whether you think they're going to be NHL regulars right now. They appear to be trending in a way that is going to allow them that opportunity to be in the lineup every single night. But it's not set in stone, and both players have had moments this year where they've looked really good, and then some moments where they've had to sit. It's part of being a young player, for sure. But there's a little bit of pressure, I do think, partner, too, when you're a younger player and you go up to the top 6. If you don't do something, you're going to be shuffled around.
I think the fans' point about like James could be a top 6 guy, and he's had a little bit of time playing with those skill guys already this year. Right now, the Lightning are doing well. They won 8 in a row, and this is the lineup that's working for them, and that includes having James on the fourth line, which we'll call the fourth line with Paul and Bjorkstrand, and Gonsalves playing in a top 6, usually with Point and Kucherov, although they switched them up a little bit in the Colorado game and moved Gensel back with Point and Kucherov, and Gonsalves was playing a bit with Sorelli and Hagel. I do think that the sort of player that James is would mesh well in a top 6. Sabrin, I would be very surprised. I mean, you mentioned him. I would be very surprised if they put Scott Sabrin in a top 6. I mean, it can happen. You can have a meat and potatoes type player playing in your top 6, but that's not really the way the Lightning have tended to operate.
No.
When they're constructing their lineup and the line combinations. But look, I'll repeat it. Gage Gonsalves is playing well right now.
He's playing very well.
I mean, he did score the game-winning goal in L.A.
Yep.
And he really made that play. He took it to the net. He tracked the puck behind the net. Got a bit of a lucky break that it bounced in off Edmondson, but he was around the net, and he made something happen. It was a huge goal for the Lightning.
Credit where credit's due.
If he hadn't been playing in the top 6, he wouldn't have been out there.
Fair point.
I mean, he wouldn't have been out there in that moment on that shift with Gensel and Sorelli. I think that was the trio.
Hit us up on X at Bolts Radio. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can. This one comes from Steve. He wants to know, do you guys think Curtis Douglas will get into the lineup anytime soon?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you don't usually mess with a winning lineup, but the Lightning have a lot of games coming up here in fairly short order. I mean, they've had a light week which has helped me with my cold as I'm trying to get over it. You can tell I still have the drainage, so I'm persevering. But, game Saturday in San Jose, game Tuesday against Colorado, didn't have another game until this Saturday, tomorrow. Right. But then it's Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, right? So 3 and 4, it's possible Douglas will get into one or more of these games. I did note that Delorier didn't play in the last game for Philadelphia, so I don't know if he's battling an injury or they just didn't want him in there. They played Toronto.
Interesting.
We'll see. Remember, they fought in the first meeting, and Delorier got the upper hand.
Delorier can fight.
Delorier can fight. By the way, you see Reeves got knocked down by Olivier?
I did see that fight. That was
Reeves
incredible.
I passed the concussion test. It's the first one of these I've ever had.
Well, it was funny. It was funny listening to or reading the comments because they showed a snippet of the two talking to each other in the penalty box, and people were like, "Yeah, Reeves doesn't look like he knows where he is," and I didn't really listen to the exchange back and forth, but
he gave him credit though. He's like, "Look, he's one of the toughest fighters in the league." He's like, "I'm 38, maybe I'm slowing down a little bit."
Well, I mean, can you remember a time you saw Ryan Reeves? Fall?
You know what's interesting? I don't really remember Ryan Reeves. He's 38. I mean, theoretically, he might have been an NHLer for like almost 20 years, but that has not been the case. I'd have to go back and look at his career stats. But he was in St. Louis and Pittsburgh. He was around there, but I don't really remember him being, like a 22-year-old up-and-coming tough guy, right? Maybe he did a lot of that work in the minors. But there's no question in the last 7 to 8 years, really in his 30s, he is regarded as one of the toughest players. By tough, I mean like you better be ready to get hit if you fight him.
I always thought he hits you and it's violent.
Yeah.
It is violent when Ryan Reeves. He's played, you know what? Credit to him. I'm putting you on the spot. If I were to ask you how many games played in his career at the NHL level, what do you think? If you had to guess.
Well, he's been around for a while.
He's been around a while.
But, I mean, he doesn't play every game. I'd say, 500 maybe?
949.
Well, I'm way off. So, now, I probably didn't remember.
St.
He wasn't
Louis.
as impactful for me.
He played a lot in St. Louis.
Career. Okay.
He came in as a 24-year-old.
So I didn't even remember that. That's 14 years ago.
So his first 6 years were with St. Louis, and he was he had some seasons, 81 games, 80, 79. Yeah. And then he went to Vegas.
We only saw the Blues twice a year. So that's my own ignorance.
No. And then he went to Vegas.
I remember him in Vegas.
Yeah.
And, certainly with the Rangers, Toronto.
Pittsburgh was short-lived.
Yeah. So, but I saw the fight, and that was kind of like the Sabrin Jack-Eye fight. It was like no defense.
No.
So Olivier,
which is unusual.
Yeah.
It almost was like Olivier hit him first, and it stunned him, and that opened the floodgates a little bit for Olivier. Did Douglas fight Olivier too?
No.
Okay. It was
They've only played Columbus once, and I don't think
he wasn't in
they had a fight in that game.
Okay.
No. Anyway. The question was about Douglas. So the Lightning have the 3 and 4 starting Saturday. Is it possible that Douglas would get in? Yeah, it's possible. And it's certainly possible if the Lightning lose a game and Coop might want to mix up the lineup. I do want to mention some stuff going on with my schedule. So the reason why I wasn't on the show earlier this week is my wife is having a surgery next week. So we had some see the doctor, and you have to do the pre-check-in. So that interfered with the show. That's why I wasn't on the show earlier this week. Surgery is next week. So the Lightning have been very gracious, and it's an outpatient procedure. So fans want to chime in and be like, well, wish that all of that is welcome. Sure. This is not one of these where, she's going to be laid up in the hospital for days on end.
Sure.
It's an outpatient procedure. But because of that, and there's some recovery, I will be starting this trip on the road, but coming home, I will be doing the Pittsburgh game and subsequent road games from the studio, like the old days with the bubble and everything else.
Right.
Because, if you've ever been through a surgery, the recovery, you really can't do much of anything.
Sure.
So that's the situation, and I will not be on I'll be flying home the day of the Pittsburgh game, so I think Eric will slot in with you. I will do the game, obviously, and then Wednesday is the day of the surgery next week, so I won't be on that show either. And then we'll kind of take it as it comes. So I just wanted to share that with the fans in case they're like, we may even have Phil do the game with me.
I was going to ask you, do you think we can get maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly
I know Phil's
possible.
been banged up a little bit. So
Phil has been banged up a little bit. Yeah. So if you hear Phil on the air with me when the Lightning play the Penguins on Tuesday, that's the reason why. I don't think we're going to. There was the one year when, so going back quite a few years, I mean, my wife went through breast cancer and chemotherapy, and you remember this well, like the whole second half of the 15-16 season, I did every road game from the radio station in the studio. You were there too. You had to go to the studio in those days, and we didn't really say anything to anyone that was going on. This time, it's no big deal, and it's a short-term thing.
Technology
allows really makes it to me. I mean, there are some teams that just don't even travel their broadcasters. Toronto has now done that with, I think, all of their sports. They don't travel their broadcasters.
It's hard to believe we're
Blue Jays, Raptors, Leafs. We do, obviously, but I'm very appreciative that the Lightning are giving me this opportunity to still do the games.
Did we do a few games from the house too when we started?
At the very first game in it was actually at Pittsburgh. Steven Stamkos scored his 200th goal that game? Maybe. It was a memorable goal.
I remember.
Yeah. So the Lightning played at Pittsburgh. It was, I think, a Saturday afternoon. That was the first one. We hadn't had the studio set up yet. It was in February of 2016.
I remember that.
Because that was right after she was diagnosed.
Yes.
And I did it from this room right here.
Right
the other side of the camera in front of the television, yeah.
Were you by yourself then? Or
I was by myself. Matt Salmon was our...
Matt Salmon,
Yeah, Matt was... handling the technical side.
Yeah.
And he came and basically we set it up from the house. And then by the next game, the studio was, they had a room. And Jay Retcher was actually, he actually produced a lot
the producer.
Of those game. Yeah, he was
hilarious.
behind the board.
It all comes full circle.
Going back quite, that's 9 years now. So
I tell
10
Steve,
years.
The
it's
very
10
first
years
game,
this February.
The very first game I did as the radio network host, Jay Retcher was the board op.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, it's kind of like the Lightning
are
saying, we bring in these players, and they start in the minors, and then at Jay, he's got his own podcast now.
He's done very well. So
yeah.
It's
anyway, that is going back quite a few years, so we'll see how rusty I am calling games off a monitor, but it's going to be a short term thing. And then of course we have the long homestand. The Lightning have the long homestand with the outdoor game, and then the Olympic break. So.
It's going to be a race to the finish line for sure. We'll have a little bit of break, of course, with the Olympics, and then it's off to the races. Game tomorrow, 7:00.
Yes, that is when I will be on site. Yeah, I will be in Philadelphia for the two games.
You'll be leaving
start the trip.
Yep, you'll be leaving.
And we should mention the Lightning did this at the start of the year with the 4-game trip they had, where they did Boston, Washington, and then Detroit, Columbus. 2 games off, or 2 days off in between. Yeah. They are coming home after the Pittsburgh game. They're not going straight to St. Louis. So it's an interesting choice. That will not affect me as much because I won't be on the second half of that trip. But it is interesting that they've decided to do that to give the players an extra night in their own beds.
Interesting.
Yeah. But coming home from Pittsburgh after a game, you're going to get in at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
It's a long flight.
Yeah. A long way to the airport too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the cities where the airport is not close to the city, which adds some time.
It's about 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah. So like Tampa is one of the cities where the airport is very close.
Yeah.
There are a few. Philadelphia is very close.
Is it?
Like, you're on the bus for probably less than 10 minutes, assuming you can just, you're not hitting traffic or anything like that. Pittsburgh is far. Denver is very far.
Is it?
Edmonton and Vancouver are very far, which is why I say when you have that back-to-back where you're losing an hour, you're losing more than just the hour.
That's a good point.
Because, it's just a really long way to get to the airport for both.
Sure.
De-icing, usually when you're out there, although the Lightning are going to be there in March, and they don't have that as a back-to-back. Anyway, the Lightning are coming home after the Pittsburgh game, then off day that next day after, leave for St. Louis, play St. Louis on that Friday, Dallas Sunday afternoon, then back home.
Gotcha.
So That's the 5-game trip, but it's being split into 2 separate trips.
Before we sign off, we want to let everybody know you can enjoy some Refrum tonight. Smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrum by name. Go Bolts, and enjoy responsibly. Partner, I will talk to you tomorrow.
Yes.
From Philadelphia.
And we'll
Safe travels.
We'll have power lunch on Monday.
Yep.
Before
we'll talk
the
about
second
the Flyers
game,
again.
like little 2-game series between the teams.
For sure.
I don't think the Lightning saw the Flyers best in the first meeting. That was a shutout win for the Lightning.
Yeah.
They really controlled that game. Philadelphia's a good team, though. So this is going to be an interesting challenge for the Lightning. I mean, Philadelphia's not in the category of Colorado.
No.
But the Lightning are going to need to be ready to go and play on their toes in this game. I
think that's fair.
Rick Tockett's a good coach, man. He is a
is.
good coach.
He's got credibility, too.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy he had 500 goals. I think he had 500 goals in his career. I mean, tough, physical, and everywhere he's been. And you know what, too? A lot of the star players like him.
Yeah.
Relates well to those guys. There's a respect factor there. So, all right. Talk to you tomorrow. Great job this week. Thanks to Steve Versnick. Thanks to Jared Johnson. We appreciate you guys listening at Bolts Radio. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning.